Hello, this is Benjamin with DealerCycle. Today's topic will be going over some inventory display issues that I've noticed that can happen. So for inventory, we'll go over to the left-hand menu, click on Inventory, and into Inventory Manager. We'll go to one of these units, go over to the left, hover our mouse over the pencil, and in the menu that appears, we'll click on Edit Unit. One of the things that can happen is called mispopulation. If you're adding these units in from scratch, in other words, one by one, using the tools here in the editor, it probably won't happen to you. But if you have an integration hooked up such as Lightspeed or Black Pearl or Lizzie or one of those, it can happen. So here's what happens. The information flows in during a sync at some point of the day, and either fields will be left blank because they're not originally populated in the integration program that our editor is getting the information from, or they could potentially be mixed up. An example would be if the equipment type and style were switched on the incoming, that can cause an issue. What that causes is the link to not be set. Now, if the link to is set correctly, it will match the model line directly above it. The link to is what pulls in all the original factory specifications and features that appear underneath the specs and features tab. It will also pull in so that you can select the stock images if you want to, which of course can be handy if you haven't taken your own images. Also, when a unit comes in from a particular integration, the link to should already be set, so you should have all the specs and features, and it should come in with the bare minimum of at least one stock image, sometimes more. And depending on what integration you have and how you have it set up, it can also pull in any images that you've taken that you have in that system. The next thing that can happen is the price can come in wrong. So it will say web price, and that designation just means this is the price that will display on the unit on your site. But sometimes what can happen is there are different price values in that integration system. There's MSRP, there's DSMRP, there's cash price, there's the value that the dealer paid for the particular item, and sometimes it can pull the wrong price. Now, if you do get a true a field population error, then you will need to do what's called remapping. Basically, what that means is go back into your integration system and working with either your account manager or your implementation specialist, have that particular integration company go in and remap that field so it pulls in the correct information. Instead of doing it yourself, I would recommend that you talk to your implementation specialist or account manager and let us talk to that company for you so that we can get it remapped and fixed faster. Another thing that can happen is units can come in as unfinalized. So if we go into Inventory and Inventory Manager, you'll see that in one of the columns there is the site and feed. These are the statuses of the unit. So if you have a green check underneath site, it means that all of the fields that need to be filled in that are required to display the unit on the site are in fact there. They are correct. And of course, if you have a red one like this, it means that you do need to go in, click on the pencil, and go in and do the complete or finalize, which just means in the simplest of terms, filling in any of the missing information, saving it, and publishing it. So if you have a red flag underneath site, it means that it doesn't have all the information to go to your website. And if you have it underneath feed, it means that any third-party feeds that you're having these units go to, that it is not going to go to that particular feed. Most of the time when you get a red mark in that feed area, it means that there's just information missing from that unit that you need to fill in. Most of the time, once you get that put in, it will push over to the feed as well, no problem. Something that I would like to discuss briefly, another thing that I see is if we go into edit unit, again, the stock number and VIN need to be unique to that unit. And of course, if you have a unit that has a serial number, it also has to be unique to that unit. In other words, it cannot match any other number that's there. If it's one or two off, that'll work fine, but it cannot match exactly. So if you do have that happen, and for some reason it's not letting you save, you could have had a unit come in from your integration and forgot that you had it in that third-party program and manually added it here, and it could cause you not to be able to save it if that's the question. If the system catches that there is a stock number or a VIN, either or both, that match, it will not let you save it. So at that point, it's best to go back into your inventory and inventory manager and see if there is another unit that is close to the same information. Speaking of units that can be duplicates can happen much in the same way. Let's say that you had someone manually put in a unit here, and then one of the units came over from your inventory third-party management system. Well, it could display two different units. So I recommend that you have the inventory page on your site open, and then when you go into inventory and inventory manager, if you see an unfinalized unit, I would first make sure that you don't already have that unit listed on the site. Because if you do have it listed on the site, you can go through and delete it. But let's say the unit that you have on the site has incomplete information. And let's say that you want to combine the two. Well, when you go to finalize the unit, it gives you these options. Let me explain. So we hover over the pencil, we click on complete finalize, and you have two different options. You can do its very own individual listing on your site, marks it as it's, brand new, ready to go. Or if you do the associate, what it's going to do is it's going to find a unit that is similar to that unit. Let's say it has the same stock number, the same VIN, or maybe just the same year, make, and model. And you can go through and associate the two slightly incomplete listings and combine them into one. Another issue that happens occasionally is the displayed horsepower on the unit is not the same as what is listed on both the search results page, which is the first result that you get when you perform a search for a unit, and of course the final details page, which is when you click on the unit and actually go through to view the full page of information on the unit. Now, typically this will happen within the marine industry, but it can also happen within others. So let's go ahead and pop up the filters here. We'll go to the type of unit, and in this case we're looking for boats, because like I said, with marine industry it's the most common. And now we scroll down here and we'll go to this first crestliner that we see here. We'll click on the pencil, click on edit unit. Now let's go over to the specs and features. We can see that the link to is set, so let's go to specs and features. Now here it says max horsepower 60 horsepower. Now that's great. That means that that's the maximum horsepower that this particular boat can handle. But on the actual website, it'll display that as its current horsepower. So it'll display it as the max horsepower, but let's say that's not really the engine that's on it. Let's say that it only has 50 horsepower or 25 horsepower actual motor on the boat itself. Well, we obviously don't want to mislead our dealers. So we'll go ahead and pull up our website next. Now that we've got our website up, let's go ahead and pull the year, make, model information from that unit real quickly and copy and paste it onto the search bar of our site, just like a customer would, and search it. And there is the unit that we have in question. Now, again, it says max horsepower 60 horsepower. Now, if they see that, then they're assuming that there's a 60 horsepower motor on it. But if there is not, in fact, that particular horsepower on it, they will find that out when they get to the view details page and actually start digging through the information on the unit. Now, that might be enough to turn some customers off from buying the boat. They might feel like it's dishonest. So let me show you how to fix that. If we jump back to your inventory manager in that particular unit, all you have to do is go into specs and features. In this case, we know that it's over in the table. So we go to use customize. We find the one that says table, go to the right and click on edit. Now what you can do is you can erase where it says max horsepower. You can type in current engine or current horsepower, however you want to phrase it, and then actually type in the correct information, save, then go up into the upper right hand corner, click on the name of your business and run that publish changes. And then the customer won't feel like they are being misled. The final issue that I'd like to discuss with you real quick is if we go back and let's go to manage images. Now we'll go to add custom images. Now we'll go to upload and select files. Now something that Windows and other operating systems do is when you take pictures for your units, you do want to have your phone in the portrait orientation. Otherwise, if you have it in the landscape or the 90 degrees sideways, when you pull up the image here, the operating system and this Explorer has software built into it that it will show it as the correct orientation. But then when you go through and actually upload the image, when you get back to this browse file area, it'll show the image and that image will be pointing down. So if for the instance of a boat, it might have it as the wrong orientation of having the bow of the boat point down. In other words, kind of goofy and not great looking. So the two options that you have at that point are either to retake the image in the correct portrait mode, holding your phone straight up and down, or to go through and find a image editor and correct that orientation. In other words, spin it 90 degrees clockwise or counterclockwise to get it to be the right orientation. Something that also can help with that and is free to use for any of our dealers is the DealerCycle Mobile Inventory App. I'll go into more detail about that next. The DealerCycle Mobile App that can help with getting the images in the correct orientation as well as attach them to the correct units. If we scroll down, we're in the first article that we see here. If you're wanting step-by-step instructions on how to log in for the first time, you can go here, DealerCycle Mobile App. It is available on every plan that we offer. You'll see two different things that are helpful. First, choose based on the vertical that you're in. So is it power sports? Is it marine? Is it trailers? The first thing to make sure that you'll get the right picture on the right unit. The second, if we scroll down a little bit further, it gives you guidance on how best to take picture and what angle. These green overline images will be in your camera and be a transparent layer over the actual footage coming from your camera, and will line up the particular unit that you're taking pictures of and make sure that you're getting a really nice, precise shot, not only horizontally and vertically, but also distance from the unit as well. If you have any questions about using the DealerCycle Mobile app or how to get logged into it for the first time, you can contact your account manager or implementation specialist. Otherwise, it is free to use and free to download directly from the Google Play Store or iOS. Jump back to our dashboard. That is the mistakes that I see most when a unit displays on the site. That's all I got for you today. Until I see all of you again, thank you very much for your very valuable time.